Hello everyone! In this week's video, I am drawing two of my viewers' original characters. If you want to know how to submit your own OC for me to draw, all of the info is in the description. The first character I'm drawing was created by Love2DrawManga's. Their name is Juliet. Juliet loves to write stories and put on plays with her family. So let's start drawing Juliet. Because Juliet likes to put on plays with her family, I decided to draw her putting on a play. I don't know what her family looks like, so instead of drawing her family putting on the play, I have her putting on her own little play for her plushie toys. I thought that'd be kind of cute. I wanted to really exaggerate Juliet's pose and make it look like she's being a little overdramatic. She has her left arm flaring out and her right arm going up in the air. She's kind of doing an arabesque-like pose with her arms and her legs. I don't know why I associate this pose with acting, but it was a lot of fun to draw. Her tail was really interesting to draw. I've never drawn a dragon tail on a character before. It was kind of tricky figuring out how to place it. To help me figure it out, I imagined it as being an extension of her spine because basically the tail comes off the spine and it's kind of like an extension of the spine, if that makes sense. I am also assuming she has a hole in her skirt for her tail to go through, so I didn't draw the skirt going around the tail. I kind of just drew it normally. It was a lot of fun sketching out the plushies. I gave her two big teddy bear plushes in the corners, and then a bunny, kitty, and dragon. Since she is part dragon, I thought it'd be kind of cute if she had a dragon plushie, or is that just kind of weird? I don't know. I thought it'd be kind of cute. For the background, I decided to make it look like she hung up a sheet for the backdrop. It's up against a wall, and she will have a light shining on her as a spotlight. I was going to add two spotlights, but that sounded really complicated. I've never created a picture with two strong direct light sources. And so I decided to change it to one light source because I thought that'd be a little more simple. After finishing my sketch, we move on to the line art. Things are going as usual here. Nothing too fancy or exciting. One thing I do want to mention is that I was kind of struggling with Juliet's face. I don't know, she kind of has this mature eye shape, I guess. And I think that's why I was struggling to make her look like a little kid. Also, I've gotten to draw quite a few kid characters recently. I used to not get them very often, but now I am for some reason. The characters are randomly picked, so it's all up to chance. But I do find it kind of funny how I've been getting more younger characters recently, especially since when I first got a younger kid, I was talking about how I never get to draw younger characters, and now I'm drawing them pretty often. Also, I'm quite pleased with how Juliet's hair turned out. I wanted to make it kind of whoosh around like she's moving. I think it turned out nice. So for the line art on the bears, I wanted them to look really fuzzy. I found a brush on the Clip Studio asset library and it makes zigzag lines that look kind of like fur. I was really happy I found this. It made outlining the bears a lot faster. I also used a pattern brush to add the stitching to the plushies. I wanted to make sure that they didn't look like small animals. I wanted to convey that they were stuffed toys. Also, I'm pleased with how the dragon turned out. I feel like it looks really cute. I don't know what it looks like in the front, but from the back it looks cute. The background is pretty simple. I added some lines for the wooden floor and then add the blanket. It's being held up at two different spots, so we're going to be getting a lot of different folds from the blanket. Once the line art was finished, I filled in all of the base colors. I skipped this because it's pretty boring. So I'm starting by adding the lighting from the spotlight. I make a new layer, set it to multiply, and then add a muted purple to the entire picture. I then erase where the light will be shining. I didn't do this totally correct. I kept trying to find pictures online to use as references, but I just couldn't find anything that gave me what I was looking for. Basically, I should have made the light not as strong a little after it's coming out of the light, and then make it stronger where it's hitting the character and the blanket. But by the time I noticed this, it was kind of too late to change things unless I wanted to go through a ton of work because I had merged all of my layers together by the time I noticed this. Anyways, I am now adding shading to Juliet. Because the light is coming from the right, I am making most of the shadows be on the left since it's more in shadow. It was also a little tricky working with her horns. I wasn't totally sure how to place them on the head. I've never really drawn horns on the side of the head that bend downward, so it was a new experience. My OC Raylan has horns, but they're really different. They're on the top of her head and they kind of curve back. Oh, also, I really enjoyed shading her hair. I kept things pretty simple, but I feel like it turned out nicely. I added 2 sets of highlights. I have the softer highlight and then I have the harder edged highlight that are smaller and don't appear as much. They make the hair look really shiny and I really like it. It was kind of interesting working with an artificial light source. A lot of times in the pictures I am shading, the light source is coming from the sun or the moon or some kind of unidentified light source. So it's kind of different shading lighting that's coming from a light bulb. Since the lighting is more of a white light instead of a yellow light, I don't add a ton of colors for the highlights and I use a lot more muted colors for the shading. This can make things look a little more dull, but I feel like it gets the lighting situation across, so that's why I chose those colors. Now I am shading Juliet's eyes. They are a very pretty purple color like her hair. I hope it's okay that I gave her pupils. In the reference picture that was sent to me, she doesn't have pupils. I did try the no pupil look, but it was kind of hard to make her have the expression that I wanted her to have come across. So I gave her the pupils. Oh, also, I feel like her eyes are looking a little derpy at the moment. I was trying to kind of make her look upwards, but yeah, I moved them around a little later on. Next, I'm adding the shading to all of her clothing. The skirt was really fun to shade. I make it darker where the skirt flows inwards and add highlights where the skirt is flowing outwards. I love Juliet's outfit. It has a simple black and white color scheme, and I think it's really charming and it was a lot of fun to work with. For shading the whites, I wanted to stick with the purplish color scheme, so I used a lot of purple for the shading. Now I'm moving on to the blanket in the background. Because it's being held up at the 2 corners, we get a lot of folds forming between those 2 points. We get a lot of curving folds, so I add a lot of curving shadows. I added where I wanted the shadows to go and then blended out the shadows with the blending tool. I then add a little bit of shading to the plushies. I make their shading a bit darker and also add some highlights. I wanted to make sure that the plushies looked really soft, so I made the shading also very soft. Lastly, moving on to the finishing touches, I made a PNG file of my picture with all of the files merged together. I make a copy of my picture and apply Gaussian blur to it. I then erase where I don't want the blur to be in the middle of the picture. I wanted the animals to be blurred so that way they feel like they're closer to us. Also, to make things a little more interesting, I decided to tilt the entire picture. I thought this would help things not feel so linear. And now I'm adjusting the irises. When I have a bunch of different layers, it can be tricky to move things around, and recently I find it's easier to move things when it's all on one layer and then just patch it up by painting on a different layer.